it seems to be going. Okay, well, we'll see if anything turns up. I'm just going to test the on-screen chat. I'm not seeing the chat working yet, so let's just double see if the browser's working. Oh, here we go. I have to bring this to the front. There we go. Now I'll be able to see your comments. So, like I said, if anyone has any questions about this piano, now is the time to ask. I did, yes. So this is a little square piano that I started in, I think it was 2011. And the whole premise of this thing was to see if I could build something that was even remotely resembling a piano, mostly from materials bought from Home Depot and other local hardware stores. So now, the piano used to live at my parents' place a couple hours away, and my dad retired, and I re-inherited the piano. And when I re-inherited it, it was in quite dilapidated shape, so, and it was, you know, kind of naively built in the first place. And so, faced with the prospect of either demolishing the piano or keeping it as is in such a sorry state, I decided to take another. So I kept the cabinet and I kept the most of the fundamental structure, but then I replaced almost everything else. The soundboard, the bracing, most of the action aside from the keyboard, really revamped the whole thing. So for anyone who is just tuning and maybe wondering why I'm sitting on the floor to tune this piano, right now it's being stored on a dolly just in my spare room here. I haven't built a new set of legs for this piano yet, so once I have my new workshop space set up, I'll be able to tackle that. But in the meantime, I'm just trying to get these strings stretched out since I just installed these a month or two ago. Um, Now, part of the process when you build a new piano is that the piano has to get used to all the tension um, exerted on the frame and on the materials themselves. So not only is the cabinet of the piano sort of shifting and getting settled as the tension goes up, but also the strings themselves stretch out. Oops. Put that mute. Where did I put that? Oh, there. So part of the other reason that I'm doing all this tuning of the piano in the meantime, even though it's not done being constructed, it doesn't have dampers or legs, part of it is to get those hammers played in as well. The hammers are cut, and leather sounds best on piano hammers after it's had a chance to compact down a little bit. I'm going to test this in a minute and play a little bit of music. Hear how it's coming together. Oh, hi, Ham. My cat, Ham, just stopped in to visit. Hello, welcome to the Time Traveler. It's good to see you here. So, let me know if you have any questions about this piano or any questions about the way it was built, the inspiration behind it, anything, you name it. Or not even about this, just in general too, I guess. Okay, so I'll tell you just a little bit to lead up to that question. This piano used to have dampers. It never had a pedal system. But when I first built it, uh, almost a decade ago, it did have dampers, a little row of them that ran along there. And since then, I've gutted the piano and almost completely rebuilt it. And so I haven't gotten around to putting in the dampers or the pedal yet, or the legs. I have to put in the legs first so that I can get the proper height for the pedal. And the tricky thing that I'm currently trying to overcome for the dampers is finding a way to have enough space between these strings for the damper lifter wires to fit between them. So it will have dampers soon, but not yet. And the way it will work is much like a traditional grand piano, where there is a rail below the strings along there with little holes in it that have felt in them, so that wires can stick up and go between the strings and push up on the dampers that will lift them off. In the meantime, though, it's just going to sound very ringy and echoey like that. Hey Mitch, how's it going? I need to set the color of my chat a little bit different so I can actually read these comments without having to squint. Good to see you, Mitch. How are things in Niagara today? Glad to hear it. Oh, it's just much the same way here. It's just a little bit cloudy and windy, but just a really lovely temperature. Oh, there's the problem. But for a very long jog. Oh, very good. You're a better man than I, Mitch. It's been a long time since I even hit the gym. In case you couldn't tell by these strapping muscles. I'm gonna see if I can change the color on that. Here, you know what? These comments a little larger. Yeah, Kylan and I are high metabolizers, I think. You know what? I have thought about recycling some legs for this piano, but somehow that would seem like cheating to me. You know, basically everything else on this piano, aside from the tuning pins, some of these parts in the action, just a couple sets of the parts, and the key tops are intended for pianos, but everything else is really mostly hardware store supplies. Also, with the exception of bass guitar strings for the low bass range. So I'm trying to keep within that spirit of it mostly being sort of handcrafted. But if I saw the right pair in an antique store and the price was right, I think it would be hard to resist jumping on. And I'd still be recycling the materials, much the way that I've recycled these flanges and the jacks that are below there. In a minute, I'm going to open up the mechanism here and show you guys how the insides of this works. Just as soon as I tune these last few notes. Which, as you can hear, quite desperately need it. As it goes on. Hey, thanks, Peter. So, Mitch moved. We were able to change our internet just a few weeks afterwards, and actually soon I'm going to be able to upgrade it even more. They're opening up a new LTE internet tower nearby, and that will offer us upload speeds up to 10 megabytes per second, whereas my current upload speed is about 1 megabyte per second, and before it was something like 500 kilobytes a second. So, thankfully, we're only going to go up from here. Yeah, man, I'm glad too. It's gonna be great for streaming, for playing things online, and just getting to hang out with you guys. So, since I have a couple of you here, I'll take just a sec. Don't feel any obligation to hang around, by the way. I'm just happy that any of you could stop by and have a look at this thing. It's always fun to share a project that you've been very passionate about, and I have been very passionate about this over the last number of years, and so it was really exciting to re-inherit this piano a number of months ago and have the chance to do something with it. Well, I'm glad that you want to hang around. I'm very happy to have you here, Peter. All right, so here, I'm going to pull out the action and show you guys the insides. So, for those of you who don't know, I've basically built this piano twice, like I've said earlier. So I re-inherited this piano when my parents moved. I built this in 2011 when I was living at my parents' house. And after a while of it living inside, it went back out to the shed. And then my dad retired last year and moved. And when they moved, I re-inherited the piano because it got packed up and they didn't have a place for it. Um, and it was right now. It didn't have any of this mechanism. It was a totally different mechanism. It had a totally different set of strings. In the meantime, I've completely redone the whole inside. I've put in this black metal bracing that you see there. That's all new. All new strings, a new soundboard, new bridge, new almost everything. Reinvented the whole thing. So, when I did do the reinvention, I wanted to keep as much as I could while not sort of sacrificing. So I wanted to be playing the same keys, so I kept the wood of the keys, but really stripped it down to its bare elements. There's almost nothing original left aside from the actual sticks of the keys themselves. I've put in new key buttons, which are these little pieces you see along there. Those are what keep the keys from wobbling from side to side. I put on new key tops there for a new playing surface, and built an entirely new mechanism back here. So here, I'll show you a little bit about the hammer mechanism. If I can bring the laptop in closer here. So, I'm not sure if this is an angle where anyone can see anything, but you can, these are little hammers. Now, it's a wooden core of these hammers. Oh. Oh. So there's a wooden core. No, the hammerheads are different. I built new hammers. So basically what I did was I cut out, these hammers are recycled from back checks of pianos. And I took all these little wooden pieces and put them in a little mold in a great line with a big sheet of leather and felt. So if you look very closely at that hammer there, you can hopefully see how there is a layer of felt underneath the leather there. Top, and those hammers are tapered so that they're kind of rounder on the lowest notes and then a little more pointy when you get to the top notes. They're the guinea pigs. Say hello. They're a little less rowdy today. So, for the mechanism of this piano, I kind of reinvented the wheel a little bit, just to be able to make use of the available parts. Here, hang on one sec. So, when you press the key, it's hard to see, but there is what's called a whip-in underneath, right in there, and that has a jack mounted. So if you look very carefully right there, you'll see this little wooden finger pointing upwards, and that's what pushes on this thing here called the intermediate lever, which pushes on the hammer, making it go up. But once the hammer almost touches the string, there's a button here, which I turn with these screws, that forces the jack, again, this little wooden finger there, to come out from underneath the intermediate lever, allowing the hammer to escape and fall back down. Now, this is a sort of original take on a very conventional design that goes back to England in the late 1700s, early 1800s, adapted to make use of some recycled parts. Here, let me pull up YouTube so I can catch some more of these comments. They're a little hard to read on the screen. Oh, hey, Henry! So everyone, in the chat we have Henry Bojangles, who is just an absolutely mean piano player. Mean in the best sense. So the Celeste, Henry, was a complete different thing. That was mostly recycled materials. I built that using the action of a very old English birdcage piano and then a children's glockenspiel. And that one's actually currently disassembled. I haven't done much work on that in a long while. It needs to be revamped. Um, I see we have another viewer there. Big welcome to Elias T. Piano. I hope I'm, as always, not butchering the pronunciation of that. Well, as you can tell, the piano doesn't have dampers, and so it's not exactly conducive to ragtime, mostly to classical at the moment. It will have dampers soon. And also, I will have the Celeste back soon at some point. I'd love to rebuild that before this summer. Henry, the big obstacle that I have with the Celeste is that all the keys, there was only about 2 octaves of notes on it. I think it went from here to there or something like that. And the width of the glockenspiel tines is about twice the width of the keyboard. And so in order for the hammers to line up with the glockenspiel pieces of metal, the keys had to do what's called doglegging outwards. So where the key goes parallel like this, they fan out quite a bit. And they had to fan out too much. It really made the touch quite bad. So I'd like to redo it with some kind of new design that will make it work a little bit better. Yeah, so that piano wasn't, that Celeste was a bit of a design failure, sort of an improvised thing. But I really would be excited to do it again, if for nothing else, to try and do that Fats Waller stuff. It's great to have you here, by the way. I don't think we've ever gotten to connect on one of these live streams since, as you note, the time difference. As you can hear, the piano is not exactly ready for Tom Breyer. I think the first video that I put out of this piano was the Bach Prelude. Welcome, Carson. What kind of piano do you have that has leather hammers? I imagine it must be quite old. And Mitch, you're absolutely right. I don't think. I think pianos live in excited fear of Tom Breyer. Well, there are a couple things that I need to troubleshoot on this piano besides the actual building obstacles. Since I started working on it, there are a couple notes that have developed clicks, like this one, which seems to have gone away. Or this one, there we go, that's the one. There it is. There it is, that's the one. So you know what, actually, I'm gonna troubleshoot that right now. No time like the present. So again, this is a super informal stream. Do any fancy production here or anything. I'm just kind of picking away at this thing since I have a couple hours to kill right now. Thought it might be interesting to share with you guys, so. It's funny too because this is not all that dissimilar from what I'm often doing in my day job. For those who don't know, I tune pianos for a living and restore them as well. And so this is just me being a glutton for punishment and bringing work home. So I'll let you guys know what I'm doing as I do it, just to keep you apprised. Right now, I'm unscrewing this hammer rail to get access to the rest of the action so I can find out what's causing that clicking sound. Unfortunately, I don't have any dampers to put on the piano today. I don't have them manufactured yet. Right now I'm in the middle of trying to overcome a design obstacle, which I should have thought of when I was restringing the piano in the first place, which is that there isn't enough space between these wires there to install the damper wires right now, without the damper wires rubbing up against the strings. And I've been trying to brainstorm it, but there's not really a good way to make the dampers actuated from in the front of the strings instead, so I'm just going to have to very carefully install them between the strings. Okay, so now I'm going to lift off this hammer rail, and you'll be able to see the mechanism that lies underneath. Okay. So there you go, there's the whole row of hammers. Actually, I'll take this opportunity to show you up close. There's the top treble hammers. And as we go down the scale, you can see the hammers get ever so slightly thicker and rounder until you get to the very last bass hammer, which has the thicker layer of felt underneath, which helps give it a rounder sound. I'll take this chance also to show you quickly. Below the hammers, on the bottom side of the hammer rail, there are all these little buttons with screws coming out the top, and that's what I use to set the escapement, which is the moment that the hammer's free from the mechanism and are allowed to bounce back from the strings. Now, if you see down here, there's the row of these levers, which are the intermediate levers, and then the jacks below them, which trip up when you play those. Oh, and thanks for your comments on the M. Schultz piano, by the way, Peter. I sold that piano a number of years ago, actually, when I was in university, and I'll also say I didn't know half of what I was doing in terms of repairing pianos at that time. I could do so much more now. So anyway, right now I'm trying to diagnose this note, which is a click. Hear that? So let's find out if it's in this part or in this part. Okay, so it's definitely in this part. Let's see if it's just a matter of a screw being loose. Nope. So to troubleshoot it, I'll take off the parts for that note and see if there are any issues. And also take this chance to show them to you up close. So here's the intermediate lever. That's what pushes on the bottom of the hammer to make it go towards the string. So now I'm going to unscrew the whippin, as it's called, which has the jack mounted on it. That's this little part here. Now this is what the key pushes on to make it engage with the rest of the mechanism. Now, oh, I just found the source of the clicking. And it's not any mechanical problem, it's just a simple pin that fell into the mechanism. This is a center pin one of the pieces that you put in these little wooden hinges to make the parts move on the inside of the piano. So that's great. It means there was nothing wrong with it, there was just something that fell into the piano. So now I can put it back together. So not only do these parts come apart like this, but I can also put that hammer rail back onto this mechanism and then detach the entire action from the keyboard itself. I'll do that in a second just to show you guys. I have to make sure just to get that aligned just right. So after I put this back together, I'm going to just do a little bit of adjustment on the piano to show you a little bit more of its functionality. And like I said, if you have any other questions about the way it's designed or built or anything really, please don't shy away from it. Okay, so as you can see, when you press a key, everything there gets lifted up, and then this comes in contact with the button and allows that to escape. So you get that escapement so you can repeat your notes. Okay. Number one rule in piano restoration work, or really any good quality woodworking, is when you're putting a screw back in to where it went before, you always turn it left first to find the thread. So you turn it left until you feel that little pop, and then you can turn the screw, and that way you're not ruining the grip of the threads on the screw. So I do still have the 1800s British upright piano. So the piano you're thinking of is the Kirkman. Kirkman built in London, and it turns out that piano was actually built later than I thought. It is of an earlier design, but that piano was built in 1874. In England, I guess they were a little bit behind the times with their piano manufacturing, and they continued to build wooden-framed overdamper uprights in the old style right the way through the end of the 1870s. Or almost to the end of the 1870s, rather. Now, the other thing that you might be mentioning, Peter, is the odd metallic twanging sound of the strings. There are a couple notes that I have to work out some buzzing. There is a small area there where the strings are a little bit too close to each other, and you get some sympathetic vibrations right around the middle of the keyboard, which I'm going to have to fix. Here, I'll play it for you in 1 sec. You know, I don't think that went on with the right alignment. I'm hitting the wrong notes with those hammers, so something's got to change here. So Henry, you don't have your little the Minx piano anymore. You got rid of that one, or are you talking about the Barry? Which I quite liked the sound of your Barry. It was a nice piano. Well, it's good to see you, Henry. I just see I've missed this comment there. But yes, I do have the Kirkman still, and sitting in my parents' shed for an awful long time now. Climate-controlled shed, don't worry. But I will eventually get around to that piano. That was the first historic piano I ever got. So while it is in need of a more involved restoration than I gave it before, I've wanted to hold off on that until I can really tackle it in a much better shop space. There we go. That was the problem with the mechanism. I had the hammer rail screwed into the wrong set of holes. That's all. Okay, there we go. Yep, good old Canadian internet. I think I must be below the... Well... So I went with square for an unusual reason. It was because of the materials available. This whole piano really started with one piece of lumber, which was a 2-foot by 4-foot piece of laminated white Russian birch, which was what they sold at Home Depot at the time, just as a handy panel. And you may notice that the whole piano frame here is built up on layers upon layers of this laminated white Russian birch in an attempt to give it a lot of dimensional stability. And if I had my druthers and if I were to try this project again, which I will eventually, I want to try building another one, I would build a vertical piano, an upright piano, because it's easier to build an uninterrupted wooden frame where the strings are from behind or below. So, in short, if I were to do this project again, I wouldn't do a square piano. Okay. That's Reese. Reese, come here. Reese. All of the animals are coming to investigate. So at our house here, we have a lot of animals. We have 2 guinea pigs behind, 2 cats, and here he is. He's a little camera shy. Reese, come here. Come on. Say hello. Good boy. So this is our dog, Reese. He's 7. And he's acting like an embarrassed child. Good boy, Reese. That's all. Combs, if you do build a German forte piano, please let us all know on YouTube. It would be very fun to see your progress on the project. So Peter asked earlier if the type of wood affects the sound of the piano a lot, and if that has to do with other factors. And and it does actually. This piano really is not built to sound like a fine sounding instrument. I have no pretensions or delusions in my head that this thing sounds particularly nice. And in fact, when I'm talking to my friends in a messenger and whatnot about this piano, I always call it the cardboard banjo. So, because I mean, there does sound like a banjo. Oops. There we go. So, Peter, if I call you Pete and the other Peter, I'm going to forget who's Pete and who's Peter. I'm glad that the audio is working for you. I have the Zoom H4 hooked up there. Trying to catch up to these comments in real time. Yeah, okay, I'm caught up now. So it does sound like a cardboard banjo, and you know, I think that's kind of part of the fun of this, especially when you consider that it's strung with guitar strings or bass guitar strings in the low end. This is actual piano wire up in the top section, though. Anyway, I said that I was going to show you guys a little bit of the regulation and adjustments, and that's the next step here. So these little screws in the front here that are right in front of the hammers, they, like I said before, adjust the let-off. So I have to set these so that the let-off happens when the hammer is only about 1 millimeter away from the strings. So in this case, the hammers are letting off when they are a little bit too far away from the strings, and that makes the sound quieter. So if I bring this in a little bit closer, maybe you can see that a little bit better. The H4, when I got it, it was somewhere between $200 and $300. Turning all these little screws goes a long way to making the piano both feel better and sound better. So, I'm not going to regulate the whole thing right now because that would be tedious. Even I get bored by that. But I will do a couple notes. So now this hammer is releasing a little bit too late. If you listen to, you can hear the hammer blocking against the string a little bit. And so if I turn this just a little bit, then I get the sensitivity, but also the better sound. See, there's that buzz that I was telling you about. And I can't find the source of that buzz. I think it is from one of these strings making a bad contact with the bridge on the other side. There's not enough down bearing, but I can't figure out where. I test it by putting my fingers on various parts of the back scale of the strings. Trying to find the source of the buzz, but I haven't had any luck yet. So Peter, you're absolutely right. It would be good to have one of these capstan adjusters. Lost motion is one of the easiest things to do on a piano that has the greatest of the playability. So that buzz, I'm pretty sure it has to do with the contact point of these strings on that side of the bridge. Hopefully I'll find the cause of it eventually, but it just takes a lot of little experimentation to sort it out. There's a whole row of notes there that are stuck. Well, I don't think I'll add any felts to those hammers, there, Carlos, because if I add leather, or rather felts to the hammers, then I will wind up with a sound that is too soft, and you won't be able to hear it. With this piano, the soundboard is only about the size of a guitar. And so if I had felt further felt on those hammers, the impact wouldn't be enough to give it a volume that you could hear. This piano would be even quieter than a clavichord. But there is felt underneath the leather. There's a tapered strip of felt. So when I was making those hammers, the same way that you would with proper compressed felt on a traditional modern piano hammer, you'll notice that the bass hammers are very large and the treble hammers are very small. That is so that they have a gradated amount of mass that they impart to the strings to generate sound. When I was making these hammers, I tried to employ the same philosophy by starting out with a long strip of leather and a long strip of felt that I put into a mold and then glued all of the wooden hammer moldings into. Now, the piece of felt and leather that I used, before I installed it, I tapered that so that it's thickest at the bottom, and so it almost went down to just a wisp of nothing at the top. So there's actually no felt once you reach the very top hammer, but then ever so slightly more as you get down to the bottom. And then once the glue set, I took it out of the mold and cut them all apart and filed them down so that they hit the right strings. That piece, Original Rags by Scott Joplin, always makes me think of banjo sounds, and so it somehow seemed appropriate for the cardboard banjo. I see that Pete has asked if I know the Arabesque by Debussy, and I don't. That's the one. How's that start? I don't know what the chord is. I'd have to think of it again in my mind's eye, my mind's ear. I know the piece that you're thinking of, though. It's gorgeous. Yeah, with the reverb. Really, until I get dampers on this piano, it's not going to be possible to play much music on it. Although, of course, there is the Beethoven that is instructed for such things. Now, the Time Traveler, you're Jason from Facebook, right? Now, there's a piece that will sound just like an absolute blur on this piano. How's it go? Yeah. R.I.P. piano. This piano is not built to handle that. Well, good to see you here, Jason. I think the internet is dying here, so I'm going to probably cut things out pretty soon anyway. Let me know if things improve for you guys at all, but I'm not optimistic. I'm trying to think what other classical pieces that I know of uh, that would work with the piano without dampers. honestly, I would absolutely kill to hear the last movement of the Moonlight Sonata played on a clavichord. If you could send me that link, that would be great. Oh, here. Sure. I'm actually not familiar with the prelude in E minor. Actually, not with this piece either. I don't really play this. Now, someone actually already requested the Aberrask, and unfortunately, I don't know that one. I'd have to listen to it again, or see the score. I know what the first gesture's like, but I won't do it. I don't want to insult Debussy. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap this up in another couple minutes here. So if you have any last questions, please do let me know. And sure, here. So those diatonic arpeggi Waller. I like to call those Waller falls. Okay, so just to round out the stream, at least until my battery dies, just because I feel like it, I am going to take you over to my piano and play that song for you. Here. I'll leave the zoom there. So, thank you guys for joining in today. It was a lot of fun to show you guys this piano. I'm just going to see if anyone else is last questions or anything. Lydia's probably going to be home any minute, actually, so that may wind up being how this stream gets cut off. So the time travel asks how tall I am. I'm somewhere between 6'4" and 6'3" and 6'4". Last time I checked. So this piano is not the Kirkman. This is actually this is a Bell built in Canada. This is one of my short scale pianos. It only goes from F to A. Just seeing my neighbor get back. My favorite piano I've ever played, it was built in 1903. I got a chance to play it in British Columbia, which is on the west coast of Canada. There's a piano rebuilder there named Rod Verniak, who runs Verniak Pianos in White Rock. And he has in his collection, he's a master rebuilder, but he has in his collection this piano built by Gerard Heinzmann in 1903 for one of the world exhibitions. And it's a 9-foot grand piano, one of the very few 9-foot grand pianos ever built in Canada. And even though it wasn't rebuilt yet, even in its unrestored state, it was just one of the most gorgeous pianos I've ever done. Charlie Hutton asks if there's any way you can get my sheet music, and yes, I do have something called a Shoptly store. If you look it up, it's SHOPTLY, and then I have a web store on there, and that has all of my sheet music. I haven't gotten it perfectly integrated into my website yet, but it is available up there. So yeah, this piano is it's a Bell from 1893. It has 2 strings per note instead of 3. And I've rebuilt it. I put new hammers and dampers and leathers and the whole works and felt inside this. So this is my home practice piano that's up to snuff. You see, the thing is, this is such a small house that we're in now that a piano like this is the only thing that's really appropriate. But I would love to have a full-size upright piano that has the really long bass strings and the larger soundboard to give that more of a grand sound. Eventually, I'd like to sell this piano and move on to another one. Since I have you here, I've been meaning to do a later stream for the European folks. This is called I'll Follow You. It wasn't written by, but by Willie Lyon Smith. Peter, I can't tell you yet when the next European stream will be. Maybe next Monday I'll do it earlier, but I will say that the first one's right now. You know what? Maybe I'll do that. I'll just play piano until Lydia gets home. Agenda item for the rest of the day is to go pick up the mail, a couple piano supplies from the shop, and then to go by the sauna afterwards. So, and then chores around the house. But I'd much rather play the piano for you guys, as you can imagine. So. Alright, well, I'm going to play a song now, and then while I play this, why don't you think of something that you might like to hear and let me know. I don't know any Charles Cook. So that is the Harlem Strut by James P. Johnson. Hang on, I'm going to grab my power cord. All right. My power cord and my power supply. Today's broadcast brought to you by Pepsi. You know what I really ought to do today is see if my friend Kylan is going to be streaming at some point. Because if Kylan decides to start streaming soon, when I'm done, I can raid him, and we can all go listen to some more great music. So here, let's see. So Wheelman Mitch asks, "What pieces am I working on these days?" Or are you asking that to Henry? So Peter asks if I've been willing to learn a new piece, The Graceful Ghost. I've never actually learned that piece and worked it up to playable, but I know how it goes, and it's always been a favorite. I think it's one of the best classic rags written. You know. You see, it's such a beautiful piece that I don't want to do it injustice. But then that trio is. So that's the Graceful Ghost Rag, as requested by Peter, by William Bolcom, which is, again, I just think it's the most beautiful classic rag ever written. And in fact, the Graceful Ghost Rag served somewhat as an inspiration for the Northern Lights rag. Graceful Goose. No, it's the Graceful Ghost rag. Sorry, I'm a little too Canadian. We tend to bend our syllables like that. So, Peter, the part of Graceful Ghost rag that I would want to work up before performing it in public is that portion towards the end of the trio where it goes like So I have to look at the sheet music. It's one of those pieces you just cannot fake. It has to be done by the sheet music. Peter asks if I speak French, and je parle français seulement un petit peu. So the Graceful Goose Rag. How's the Blue Goose Rag go again? I'm just envisioning in my mind a mashup between the Blue Goose Rag and the Graceful Ghost Rag. And yes, Peter, that is the very chromatic and thing about. It is very delicately written. Mitch, do you speak French? You're a fellow Canadian. I'm curious. I think we talked about this on the Discord, but. Okay, well, here, I'm going to play something else in the meantime. Anybody recognize that? That is the Lost Fragment from Scott Joplin. That's a piece of music that was found in a photograph on a manuscript that is supposedly of Scott Joplin's piano. So, Peter, I do have Discord, but I am such an old man that I don't even know what it is. Like, I participate in the one that I was invited to, but I don't know the first thing about Discord. I'm almost 30 years old, so you have to understand in modern technology age, that's like a million. So I'm out of the game. I know this. Black Bottom by Fats Waller. I think that's actually Fats Waller's very first composition. So, you know, it would make sense that that sounds like James P. Johnson, because that would have come out right around the time when James P. really took Fats under his wing. So for any of you guys who are on Twitch, go over on Twitch and follow all of us. There are a number of ragtime piano players who have made the switch over from YouTube, and I'm trying to migrate from YouTube over to Twitch if possible. Get away from the corporate oligarchy. I don't see any link from Mitch there for maybe censored. In any event, I'm sure we can get that sorted out offline there. Peter mentions that he's going to leave to do some piano roll scans. Maybe I'll play them. One thing that I did when I was a kid, I learned how to read sheet music early on, but I also learned by listening to recordings of piano rolls. It's funny, I never learned from piano rolls by watching the keys go down, but I've learned from plenty of piano rolls by listening to CD recordings of them. And maybe I'll play you a couple pieces that I learned from piano rolls right now. This is one that I heard back in my teens, and I don't think I've really tried to do it since, so we'll see how it goes. I'm going to try and do an ear recollection of the Down Home Blues as Blake. And Danapa, your point about Twitch growing as well and falling under that classification is quite apt. You know, it kind of leaves a person at a loss as to what to do, what the most viable platform is. Hey, Kylan, let's welcome Foundering to the stream. It's great to see you. Kylan, are you streaming at some point today? Because if you're streaming soon, I'm just on the tail end of things. I would love to raid. Mr. Freddie Blues. Now that's a piece by Jimmy Blythe that he used to play as a duet with his nephew called Regal Stomp. The Regal Stomp. Boy, I would have thought Lydia would have been home by now. So Kylan had a suggestion there, um, which is that if you're planning to stream at any point today, I would also be delighted to do a raid for your stream as well. I should have thought of that before. Really, if any of you are on Twitch and playing piano and itching to go at some point today, let me know, and we will just bring the party over there, because I am going to be hitting the road fairly shortly here. So. Oh shoot! Sorry to hear that, Mitch. I had the same problem with my desktop computer about a year ago. I had a major setback. In fact, that's a big part of why you haven't seen a lot in terms of new scores for me in the last couple of years. Is I had this really great desktop computer, really powerful one. At least at the time, it was really powerful to me. It had 8 gigabytes of RAM, which at the time was a big deal, and unfortunately, it seems to have gotten fried by a bad power connection. So I've been stuck using my laptop. You see, this is why we need to stick to going analog. You never have a problem with the motherboard on a piano frying, unless you have a keyboard. I do compose on paper, actually. Here, let me see if I have anything around. Alright, I have an idea here, actually, since you mentioned composing on paper. When I was in the other room, part of the move stirred up some old sheet music. And so I have here old folders of what were some of my earliest compositions from when I was like 12. And I have all the old sheet music stored in this old folder, many, many pages of it. So maybe just for the sake of killing some time here and boredom before I leave, I'll show you a couple of these pieces. Oh boy, Peter, you say that your piano teacher spilled coffee in their piano. That would be really really unfortunate. Let's see, what pieces do I have in here that I might play for you guys? There's a concert band march, bit of the symphony. There's the caffeinated rag, the meatball rag from 2005. Ragtime to the max. The pumpkin, a Halloween rag. And there's part of the deep fried rag, I think. Tell you what, maybe I'll play you a little bit of this is one that I haven't played probably since back when it was written. This is the pumpkin, a Halloween rag. That's a weird choice. And then the manuscript ends. It's cut off there. I don't think I have any more of that piece, unfortunately. And I don't think I ever finished it either. Oh shoot. Well, hopefully the internet comes back for you guys. Oh, seems like it should be back there now. The streaming software that I use, OBS Studio, shows me a little square in the bottom right side where it goes either red, green, or yellow to let me know how the internet connection is. And it's between all three colors. So if there are any internet problems, I'm sure it's just on my end. Oh look, there's a second page for the pumpkin, I think. Oh yeah, it doesn't really show anything though. Nothing more views. Let's see. How about I play you guys Ragtime to the Max? This is from 2004, I think. See, there's the manuscript copy. I wrote this in my dad's office. He worked at the Canadian Museum of Civilization in Ottawa. He was an archaeologist with them before he retired. And anyway, when he was there, I would often go in and just hang out at his office, look at fossils. And there's also a Steinway grand piano they had in the concert hall that every now and then I would get to go over and practice on for a few hours. So I would go play that piano for a while, then I would go back to his office, print off some staff paper, and spend the rest of the day writing things like this. So here, I'll pull up all the pages of this here, and maybe this is a good way to close things for today, and we can do another little show and tell session like this on Monday. And I'll stream earlier in the day so you guys can join. So, page flip. go with ragtime to the max. Okay. Well, thank you. Boy, looking back at that old score, there are a lot of things that I would change now, but I'm sure we can all think that about things that we did when we were in our teens. Well, thanks, guys. You know, there are so many little details in there that it's neat to revisit your old work because you see what you were thinking at the time and you see where you've come since then. And it can be big things or it can just be tiny little details. Like there's a phrase at the end there where I phrase something like, and I would do little things different, like in this chord, taking the G from the right hand and putting it as a B flat instead to create an open voicing. Little details like that. And many big things. I think that piece is in I put out a folio number 1 at one point, which has really just the earliest compositions, and I think that piece is in there. So here's another one. This is another one that's never appeared on YouTube. This is one that I wrote. I tried to come up with a classic rag. This is actually probably one of my first attempts at a classic rag. And I came up with something called Masterful Syncopations, which is a really dumb title, but it's in a weird amount of manuscript. So I'll try playing this for you guys. And Mitch, I will update Ragtime to the max. Maybe I'll rearrange it and then learn it and put it on YouTube here. Comms, you say that you have a soundboard rib separating from the board on your Steinway. I'm sorry to hear that. What kind of Steinway do you have? Is it a grand or an upright? I don't know if you're a piano technician or not, but it is something that can be fixed. Hopefully it's not a separation that is so bad that you'll have to repair it while rebuilding, because soundboard cracks are tricky. Typically you mostly want to address them when you have the string frame, the strings, and everything out of the piano so you can access the entire soundboard. Okay, so I'm going to try this stupid and overconfidently named Masterful Syncopations. Boy, this is a Scott Joplin ripoff. So, I guess that's how we learn, isn't it? We write all these derivative things, and then you learn the techniques and the tricks, and then somewhere along the way you decide to step off and try and do your own thing. So, this is 12-year-old me kind of doing my best to channel Scott Joplin. Peter, I think that's exactly what I was thinking of. I was trying to think of elite syncopations, and so That's definitely where the title inspiration came from. Okay, well, I only have a couple more pieces in this book, and I keep on saying that I'm going to stop the stream, and as usual, I keep on going. So, why don't we just exhaust the possibilities here? There's only a few more pages of piano music here. Here's one. Here's one strain. This is the Feel Good rag, written on a particularly large piece of paper, like an A4 size paper. So this is the Feel Good rag. I think I wrote this for my grandmother on my dad's side, Joan. So let's try the Feel Good rag. This really is one that I have not looked at since back when this kind of thing was written. So, and I'm also noticing that all these early rags are in B flat. So. Oh, we only have 3 more staves of music. Oh, this is a sugarcane rag ripoff. You know what? So. And then I think at that point, even I must have thought, wow, this is a ripoff. So I stopped writing it. Let's see, what's next? Here's an unfinished fragment from October 6th of 2004 with no name. I'm not sure where it went after that. So, there's another unidentified clip. Let's see what's next. I guess this whole thing has really just turned into a big show and tell session, hasn't it? Oh boy. This is the hamburger rag. So this is a piece, I think this is actually really one of the first rags I ever actually finished. Now, both Mitch, who's in the chat, and I are Canadian. And I live on the east coast of Canada, and Mitch lives in the middle of Canada. But I grew up in the middle of Canada, in Ontario, the same province as him. And we would often vacation to the east coast in Prince Edward Island every year. And this piece I wrote, I have a distinct memory. This is in 2003, and we were in the back of the car, and I was killing time, and just wrote this rag, the hamburger rag. You can see there's the coffee-stained manuscript, two-sided. It's funny. I was writing this piece at the same time as my sister was listening onto the radio. Or however that one goes. Alright, anyway. I'll play you guys the hamburger rag. Yet another one of these pieces in B flat. I copied this piece from that other one, Masterful Syncopations. Oh no. My cat is trying to ruin my papers. This is Ham. If I'm doing show and tell, I may as well introduce you guys. Ham is a bit of a nuisance, even though we love him. Here. Cat tax. He thinks the papers are the greatest play toy. Okay. You see, this is a bit of a show and tell for myself too, because I haven't looked at all this stuff in years and years and years. In fact, here, what just fell out of there? My very first business card ever. Max Healy said, ragtime pianist, it says. How's that one? There's one bar of music on the business card, and it goes like so who knows what what I intended there. Okay. Only a couple pieces left now. Let's see. Oh, Lydia. One thing about Reese. Usually our dog Reese will start absolutely crying and whining whenever Lydia gets home, my partner Lydia, just because he absolutely adores her. I do too, but he's a lot more vocal about it, and he tends to put on quite a show. So when you hear the dog whine, I'm probably going to cut the stream off. So my boy Bill here on YouTube asks, how again? I think if you go to my channel, you can set it up so that you get notifications. If you just go to my channel, youtube.com/ragtimemax, it'll give you notifications anytime I start doing one of these broadcasts. Another way too is if you join Twitch. I think Twitch will automatically send a notification when someone that you're following starts doing a stream. So either go to my profile on YouTube or check out my Twitch profile. What's this now? Here's one page of the caffeinated rag. Interesting. So when I was a little kid, years before I actually tried to build a piano, I always thought of the possibility of trying to build one. And I always would come up with these sketches and designs for something. I called this one the Piano Boardian because I intended to make it out of just a board, I guess. This is from 2004. And I would come up with mechanisms for the piano as well. Oh, here we go. Okay. You know what? I think I'm going to round it out with this piece today, guys. For real, this time. One last thing. This is an old piece that I first wrote after I got really bit by the bug. How many of you guys know about James Scott, the great classic ragtime composer? James Scott. Right around 2004, 2005, I got caught up in Scott Joplin's music before that, but then I started to look a little bit further and get the other composers. Oh, Kylan's got to run. It's great to see you here, Kylan. I'll look forward to catching your streams tomorrow. Everyone go follow Kylan Foundering, so you get notifications for him. It would be wonderful to see him. Love you too, buddy. Oh. Well, Kylan, I'll play you off. I only have one page of the manuscript here, but I think I do remember the rest of the piece. So I'll play for you guys tonight, for the first time in many years, the Deep Fried Rag from 2005. But before I do that, just want to say thanks for stopping by again for this kind of mixed grab bag of a broadcast. I know we started out with piano tuning and showing you my piano project, and so we moved over to this this show and tell. So anyway, here we go with the Deep Fried Rag, and thanks again, guys. Uh-oh. Oh, I see. I just had a hammer hanging up on a damper. Well, you know what? Maybe that is a good thing to do for the intro for the next stream. fixing that note, you mean? No, what just happened was every now and then if I hit this note too hard, the damper flies back a little bit too much and just catches on the hammer. Lydia's late getting home, apparently. She's at the barn, so... so I actually have a little bit more time. Anything you guys want me to play before I leave? I remember some of you had mentioned that you had emailed me a score before, so maybe I'll see if I can pull up a score that someone had sent me to sight read. Yeah, Peter had sent me a couple scores for a live concert. There's the Wanderer rag. You know what? I'll just try it from my phone, but why not kill a little bit of time? And then I'll play something by Tom, as requested by Mitch. I'll try and get through the first page of this, Peter, but I'm not much of a sight reader the way that Kylan and Tom are, so... Oh, listen. interesting and nice voicings there. I'm doing that wrong, aren't I? That's lovely. Oh, no, here's Lydia. Oh, well, we'll see you guys later.